Hello, everyone. So nice to, hello. So nice to see everyone here and some familiar faces. My name is Nnenna Ndukwe, and I'm the Developer Relations Lead currently at Kodo. And Kodo is an agentic AI coding platform, essentially. Oh my God, Leon! I have not seen him in years, and I went to Resilient Coders back in 2017, so it's just crazy to see you. Thank you for being here. Okay. Anyway, so I am really excited to talk to you about a world that I'm obsessed with. If you are following me potentially on Twitter or LinkedIn, AI is my world, and specifically AI for software development. And I want to talk to you about this hype that we're seeing in the industry. There's so much noise, but it's really difficult to find out how can we practically implement AI in a way that actually supercharges our developer workflows, that can reduce the cognitive load that we have. And so that's what I want to talk about, and doing that by leveraging AI agents through different phases of the software development lifecycle. And who am I? Kind of just said that, but this is what I'm passionate about, no fluff, Gen AI for developers. As someone who has been software developer for years now that I don't want to count, but I guess I did for the slide, and now transitioning into DevRel, my job is to be able to empathize with developers. And because I've been one myself, I should be able to understand what is it that they are going through. And in this AI era, I need to understand their pain points even more so. I love blogging, I love speaking, that's why I'm literally on stage. And like I said, I'm here for sharing how to adopt the mindset, the tools, and the practice of using AI agents for software development. This is not just about this is not just about finding AI tools for coding. This is about an entire paradigm shift, a way of approaching the work that we do. And a quick session overview. We're going to talk about the current state of agentic coding, some pitfalls we're seeing in the vibe coding era. How many folks are or have vibe coded or know what vibe coding is? Okay, yes, quite a bit, everyone. And yeah, some of the issues that we're seeing with it, and a solution that I have called viable coding. I stole this phrase from engineers at Kodo. They used it in an internal meeting, and I was like, yes, this is the answer. This is exactly what I want to be the antithesis of vibe coding for software developers who don't want to lose their jobs. For people who are, for side projects, it's fun to do vibe coding if you want to spin up a website in one prompt. I think that is dope, and the amazing new, innovative tools that we have out there. But if you are on the job, there is a certain reputation that you must maintain. There are people that you're collaborating with, QA engineers, designers, project managers, and other engineers. There are some more senior engineers, principal and staff that you might be, unless there's some principal and staff in the room. Other ones, your colleagues on the same level or below you, maybe some junior developers that you're collaborating with. And there are certain expectations of developing high quality software. So how can we then move on to see how can we leverage AI to build high quality software? This is the current state that we see right now. You probably are familiar with Cursor, Claude Code if you like the CLI or being in the terminal more. GitHub Copilot, which also has the code review for PRs tool. There's a lot of amazing tools out there. And I kind of went over this already. The vibe coding era that we're in, and it was coined back in February, I see, and this took off. And like I said, it was fantastic for its purpose of being able to build quickly. And for simple software, I believe that code generation is mostly all that you need. But of course, this is alluding to something more that is beneath the surface. Code generation is awesome, and we have the tools for that now. But what we're seeing here is that how does it work for larger code bases? The laughter makes me think that people resonate and get where we're coming from with this. How does vibe coding actually work? How practical is it for larger, complex code bases? What if you are an open source developer, or you want to be one? You want to build open source tool that others can use. That needs to be high quality. If you want and expect other people to contribute, first of all, it's gotta work. People have to use it and like it, and then more people join that community. That means that you're building high quality software. And so for vibe coding, the approach that we see a lot now, which is minimal effort, is probably not the best approach that is maintainable long term. And that is where this LinkedIn screenshot comes from, how AI coding tools are so much less useful when used on existing large code bases at work compared to greenfield projects or side projects. This was a realization, I can't remember when this was posted, but this was a realization, and this was actually before the phrase context engineering came out, about how we actually need to build, or we need to be able to leverage tools that will be more useful in the actual workplace, or building something much more high quality, which is also what I call production grade. Production grade software requires code integrity. So underneath the full iceberg, you see that there's maintainability factor, there's compliance, maybe security, there's different standards that your organization or your entire company or your engineering organization or at the team level that you actually practice that are very unique and nuanced. We have reliability factor and testing and reviewing. This is a much larger, fuller, more realistic picture that you can see that is involved in building production grade software. And that's what we at Kodo call code integrity. And let me know if I'm talking too fast. I feel like I am. And this is how I envision this shift from vibe coding to viable coding. What is viable coding? The longest sentence in the world. I'm sure Grammarly would hate me for this, but the systematic methodology for integrating AI agents into software development workflows in ways that enhance human capabilities, maintain quality standards, and scale reliably across organizations. Now this all sounds really nice and very ideal, but how do you actually do this thing? So here is the traditional software development lifecycle. There are different versions of this lifecycle. Some of them are condensed or grouped, but this is the concept, and we see different versions of this outside of software development. There's life cycles for everything, right? We have identifying and gathering requirements. We have the planning phase. Sometimes that's grouped together as well. We have the designers. I mentioned the designers being brought into the room, or the UI designers as well. We have the implementation phase, once you really understand what you're actually supposed to be building, and this is when you're actually coding. And then we have the tests that need to be written, and if you're doing test-driven development, maybe the tests would be written first in small components, and then you would write or build the actual feature. And then we have deployment and maintenance. There's technical debt. There are bugs that come up that you need to make sure that you solve. There's some refactoring that you need to do because you made some really you made some decisions that for solving something quickly because of the time constraints that you had. But then at some point you got to go back and make it more robust. And so there's so much that goes into the software development lifecycle. And I think it's important to honor that when we think about AI for software development and use this as a clue to how we can then, how we can then infuse AI into each part of this phase. And that's what I have here. That's literally how I feel when I think about this. This slide is probably way too complicated, but I'll try to get through it as quickly and as eloquently as possible. We have AI for the planning phase. We have AI for the code generation, the code review, overall workflows, maybe some tasks that are very repetitive, like updating docs or some readmes or some type of information, or running some type of workflow that checks that your code is maintaining the best practices that you might have within your team or within that particular repo. And then we have AI for deep context to produce high quality code itself. This is more of the architectural layer and the component of not only do I need to I have control, there are some aspects of this that you have control over with finding tools like Kodo that can do all of these things, but it's also on us at Kodo to be able to provide the underlying architecture and the ability to leverage the tools like MCPs and like a context engine for context engineering that's running 24/7, that's running these builds so that it understands the full scope of your code base, even while you're sleeping. And then for the machine learning and real AI to actually play a part in learning what actually gets merged from your code review. And then this is teaching Kodo what is actually acceptable written code that aligns with your standards. So it's supposed to be very custom. It's supposed to be very bespoke. And that's the point, and that's part of the experience of using AI, or that's what it's supposed to be. And so that's how I kind of see it, is going through all of these phases and being able to use AI agents. This will be a bit more of a shift to go into, but I can just quickly mention that you can also shift how you perceive the code review phase and at what point in the software development life cycle that it actually occurs. If you want to shift left a little bit, during the code implementation phase, you can do a review process before it even gets to a PR. When you are a real life software developer, I know no one in their right mind wants to actually make a PR where it looks like your email should be shut off by tomorrow. That's embarrassing, right? You want to protect yourself. You want to show up as your best self. You don't want to have something that you haven't even been able to review yourself. And maybe there are ways that AI can help you review and fix and modify, improve the code that you want to write to then before another engineer gets to see it. And I remember, and I said this yesterday in a live session, I remember when I was working at a larger company, and I was only a couple years into Python, writing Python code, and I made a bunch of PRs to a back-end, actually it was a massive monolithic code base, and I was just on a high. I thought I was, the best thing that has happened. And who ends up reviewing my pull request? The staff, principal, engineer of like the whole company who's been there 11 years. And I was just like, amazing. This is exactly who I want to be looking at my code when I'm a newbie still. That's pressure. That's pressure applied, and that's what it's like in the workforce. So why not have AI just help you out a little bit right here, and then in the middle, in the PR phase, to do a first pass before anyone else gets to your code, to clean up things even further. And then there's a post-PR phase, but I won't get into that. But that's just to give you an idea of the mindset. And we kind of went over this already, but the idea is just more of a holistic, high-quality, end-to-end developer experience. And there are so many layers of this that are on us, and in order to build and provide that so that it's easier for you all to be able to implement on a daily basis at work. And to go into, I'm wondering if I should actually just go into the code, but I think to be safe, I'll start with the slides. So step one, which I showed you all in a former slide, plan agent mode. This is an agent mode that exists in Kodo. You can install this extension in VS Code and JetBrains, whichever IDE or code editor that you use. And here is a screenshot of me asking, I have a Python MCP agent workshop project. And it's a very manually written MCP server. And I'm like, hey, I just found out about fast MCP. Maybe I could refactor this and reduce the amount of lines of code of better support with this particular tool. How can I plan, like how to implement this? Can you do this for me? And that is, and I was using GPT-5, by the way. I don't know if y'all have opinions on that. I thought it was pretty good. Let's see. I don't know if I have time to go through this. Oh, there's a time right there. No, I don't have time. Okay, so essentially, what I can do is show this here. Can you all see that? Yeah. So down here, we have agent modes. And I picked the plan mode. That is for actually just having the discussion of this is the thing that I need to build. Now imagine maybe you have a JIRA ticket. You can pull in the JIRA ticket if you have a JIRA MCP or any type of connection to the management tool for the tasks that you have. How can we actually plan this out? Then you can have a conversation. Through this conversation, it'll start to plan what's the current state, what are the objectives and the success criteria. I'm skimming by really fast. And then a whole migration strategy. How you're going to do this gracefully so you're not breaking things along the way of this implementation. And all the detailed steps that go with it. In plan mode, and I believe in ask mode as well, if you're doing a back and forth, because in a plan mode, you'll probably get some questions for clarity on what have you considered about this particular architectural approach? Do you want to completely remove the old server? Do you want to create this new fast MCP implementation in a separate file and then decide when you want to migrate and delete the old file? Those are the kind of questions that you're going to get in the plan phase and the ask phase. And I believe that this is a no write mode. So it's not even allowed to implement any code. This is just about actually having making the decisions that will lead to you then shifting to code mode. Where are we? Okay. And that's the code agent mode next. You can build incrementally, and I screenshot of proceeding to phase 1 and then phase 2 of the implementation process. And it shows me the whole process and when it's updated me. And what I really like about this is that after that, it's also very careful to tell me how to verify and run the different commands that are specific to this project to make sure that everything is working as expected. Even though I'm in the middle of building, I have made changes, and these changes are things that I could probably push and submit a PR for. So we need to make sure everything is running as expected and debug, and then keep moving on. And then this was that part that I was talking about to reduce chances of humiliation, which is reviewing code before the PR is live. And I did that using workflows. We have built-in workflows, so when you install the extension, there are / commands, a few different ones, and one of the ones that I started using was review. Codo gets to put on the review hat, internally, locally on your machine, and it goes through the process of figuring out where are the potential issues that could come up. And then from there, you can let AI take the first pass in your PR reviews. And this will happen automatically when you submit a PR. And it goes super in depth with all these different recommendations to everything to consider when you have submitted the PR, and there are different lines of code that maybe could use some improvement, some security risks or concerns that could come up. Those are the kind of things that you might not always be thinking about, but AI is thinking about it for you. And I think yesterday at the live session, Kanika Tolver was there on the call, and she was asking, what about security agents? And I was like, that's an amazing question. There's different implementations. You could have maybe a security agent, or you could have a security-focused MCP that's running all these different scans for you right there in the terminal and at the PR review phase. Either way, as long as you get it done and you make sure that you are covering all bases. Why are there all these steps? This was something that actually came up on Twitter, and I feel bad because, well, maybe I'll follow him now, I guess, after this. I don't know. But I thought this was a very interesting statement. If the agent can write the code, it can review the code. So why do we need all these separate tools? Why do we have Cursor for this and CodeRabbit for that, or GitHub Copilot? It's the same models. It should be able to do all the work. I thought that was a really great question. And my answer, and an answer that I have verified with the engineers and people with the PhDs out there in AI engineering, the recommendation is that you shouldn't use the same agent for writing and reviewing code because it's a completely different cognitive architecture. And that is very similar to how our brains work as well. When you are in the creation phase, you're probably not as much in the scrutinizing phase of thinking about all the potential pitfalls or issues. So that's a completely different neural pathway that your own brain will operate under, and that's the same thing for agentic or multi-agent systems. And that makes the case for multi-agent systems, not one agent just doing everything. You can optimize different stages when they are separated, but all together as an AI system. And that's the long answer, which we won't go over. But I'm sure the slides will be shared and you can look at it if you want to. Obviously, you guys can't click on these links. I did have QR codes, but then it was like I was using some free service, and then they were just like, you have 2 days and they're gonna be deactivated. And I was like, you threatening me right now? So, you know, I'm sorry about that, but if you wanted to see in real life, and I have 4 minutes, okay, awesome. If you wanted to see in real life the part 1 of this fast MCP migration, refactor, whatever you want to call it, I submitted a PR into my own project, and I let, I think that's a bit better. I wrote this part, and then Codo Merge, which is our PR review tool, generated all of this. It identified the type of PR it was, and create a description and a diagram walkthrough of what the changes are. What I like here is how obvious it is that this is an improvement because of the reduction in the lines of code, but then all of the capabilities, the functionality that came from leveraging this framework. And a very detailed, in-depth walkthrough of the relevant files and then the actual review. And some recommendations here. There's logging and observability. There's argument validation. And backwards compatibility. And then some code suggestions that you can actually apply. Re-add some essential server logging configuration. If you want to, you can click apply. I'm not going to do that now. But what it would do is it would automatically apply the suggestions, it would update, and would cross this off the list as what has been completed and is no longer relevant in the pull request. And so you can keep doing that throughout the process, and you could also ask for more if you are a masochist. And yeah, that's the idea of all of this. So yeah, I wanted to show you guys how this is more of like a platform approach for many stages. We didn't go through all of the stages, but this is to give you an idea of how you can do things incrementally, carefully, to improve code quality over time. And yeah, I think that's everything. So. Do we have time for questions? Is that a thing, or should we one? Okay, one question? Okay. Hopefully I can answer.
As a reviewer, obviously it's giving you baseline stuff, and I've seen this where you like auto-integrate diagrams and explanations, but as a reviewer sometimes, you know, one of the things you'll do is you'll ask your colleague, hey, I see this line of code, why did you do this? Does the tool today have the capability where I could actually, instead of necessarily tagging my colleague, I could do like /codo explain and be like, hey, can you explain what this line of code?
There should be an explain command, so I haven't memorized the exact commands by heart.
There is.
Oh, this is my colleague, sorry.
There's also a plugin you can have. Not only works with GitHub right now, but you can actually have an internal conversation that is hidden from everyone else. So you can ask questions to the AI with the context of the code base and the PR. So you can ask questions and ask that. If you do /ask and space, then she can do a question, but then what happens there is that comes out as a comment. But you can use that to your advantage, because now you make Codo be the bad person, not you. So if you're reviewing something and you see something that, oh, I don't really like this, instead of directly commenting on it, ask Codo a question about saying, should you be what's the best way to do setter injection or to do component, solid approach? And then it'll look at the code and say, oh, you're doing property setting instead of so now the person has to argue with Kodo and not you.
Poor blinker.
I think that's it. Thank you all. Hello.
Awesome.
Saved by the bell.
You.
No.
Well, not just on, just in there. You had
Yeah.
a great post.
Oh.
They go to commit your code, they can review you.
Oh, yes. And also make sure to review my talk. Would really appreciate it if you go to commityourcode.agenda.
Agenda.